Hey guys, welcome to another edition of F1 Podcast. We've had a long off season. We've got 3 weeks to go max, which has been compounded a little bit by the loss of Bahrain. But here we are in front of the camera, mate, and we've got a long list of things to talk about.
We certainly do, mate. There's been a lot that's been happening in the off season, as we can all attest, and there's been a lot happening since we last recorded. But I feel sorry for Bahrain and the organisers, but under the circumstances, I think it was the right decision to not have the race go there, which opens up an opportunity, mate, once again for Melbourne to host the inaugural Grand Prix of the 2011 season.
Yeah, mate, Bahrain have got bigger fish to fry, and you know, they've got issues, and I'm sure that they'll be back later in the year. And you're right, I made a comment on the channel, Max, that a season opener in Melbourne is not too shabby, and it's something we've had before, and I'm looking forward to it, mate. Bahrain will hopefully be back, they're saying November at this stage, if they can slot it in, mate. Yeah,
we'll see what Bernie and his crew can organise. Not one of my favourite circuits, I've got to be honest with you, Bahrain, but they've earned the right to host a Grand Prix, and you know, it'd be good to see it back on the calendar, I guess.
Yeah, mate, I'd like to see it back. What I wouldn't like them see them do is slot another race in. I think that if Bahrain can't run the Grand Prix, then they should just run one less race this year. I don't think they should slot in another race in Europe or somewhere else. I think that either Bahrain has it or we just have one less race, mate.
Yeah, totally agree, and look, I think Bernie would like the revenue as well from having a race in Bahrain, so stay tuned.
Yeah, and as one of the drivers said, you know, they deserve the show. You know, it'd be good to go back into Bahrain later in the season, so let's hope it happens.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's talk about, you mentioned Bernie a minute ago, mate. Let's talk about Bernie's been giving one of his interviews. Giving one of his interviews recently, and he does this every now and then. Last year he was talking about adding extra, putting an extra corner or a longer corner and making drivers basically do a longer circuit to spice things up. Now he's talking about artificial rain to spice things up, and you know, if we're in Anaheim, Max, and the race was going around Disneyland, and you know, you had Mickey Mouse there, then you know, maybe that would be a good idea. But this is Formula One. Let's not embarrass ourselves by putting on stupid little sideshows and artificial ways to spice things up, mate. Let's just spice it up. You know, let's just spice the racing up. So I think that Bernie's suggestion was complete bullshit. And I think Bernie knows it himself, you know. I think Bernie just likes to throw in little comments like this every now and then to get the press and the fans and us all fired up. And
Mate, I think you're right, and I couldn't agree more. It's a ridiculous idea. We have enough artificial carryings on in Formula One as it is, with curves and movable rear wings and the like. The last thing I think we need is artificial rain on the circuit. A dumb idea in my humble opinion. We have enough rain on the calendar during the year, mate.
Yeah.
And look, I think it was probably designed to get a bit of attention back in Formula One. I don't know. It's been a long off season, but an utterly stupid idea in my humble opinion.
It takes me back to a couple of years ago, actually a few years ago now, when Jenson Button was on Top Gear and Clarkson was saying how he wanted to make the rules, and he was saying to Jenson, well, why don't we put machine guns on these things to make things more interesting?
Might as well.
Yeah, it's the same sort of ilk, you know. It's the same sort of comment that you know, we don't need this in Formula One. What we need is good racing. We need, you know, the circuits. We need the cars. We need everything to be, you know, providing good racing. And artificial rain just doesn't do that for me, mate.
It doesn't do it for me. Look, what I think as well. I was having a chat via our channel the other night with one of you guys about KERS and my non-liking of KERS and how I feel that. The shortcomings of modern Formula One circuits, and the onus is now being put back onto the constructors and the FIA to develop ways of overtaking. We now know we've got the KERS push to pass, we've got the movable rear wings. To me, that's just a cover for the inadequacies of modern Formula One circuits, where the constructors now are given the task of spicing things up with all of these gimmicks and gizmos.
Yeah.
I think it's a sad indictment on modern Formula One circuit design, where we've got to resort to these gimmicks to try and spice up things. And I mean, Bernie, you know, talked about his rain and all that sort of artificial water, whatever it is you want to call it. I think we actually need to start looking at circuit design. I think we've championed this or trumped.
We have. We've talked about this before. Yeah.
And I think it's a bit silly now that we're starting to get these gizmos, and I've often said that Formula One drivers have enough to do as it is anyway without having another button or another dial to turn, or whatever the case may be. Can we start building Formula One circuits that will improve enjoyable racing? Passing et al.
Yeah, I mean, Jackie Stewart a couple of weeks ago wrote a very good article, I think it was for the Times, talking about the circuits and how circuits need to take their share of blame, if you like. They're too wide, they're too safe. And, you know, we all know that Jackie, over the years, has been a massive advocate of Formula One safety. The guy doesn't want to see unsafe circuits or situations where drivers are unsafe. But it's just really penalising someone if they go off the circuit. Take Alonso in Abu Dhabi. Last season, in the last race, he went off the circuit several times chasing Petrov. You know, he came back on and didn't lose a place. So, you know, maybe the circuits need to penalise a little bit, where if you go off, if you leave the circuit, you can't just rejoin the circuit and keep your place, assuming that there's a driver, you know, within a couple of seconds. You go off the circuit, you're going to pay a price. That might be a gravel trap or a loss of grip or something that says, well, you know what? You made a mistake, so you're going to lose a place, or you're going to lose 10 seconds or whatever, and to the driver behind you. So I think that circuits and you know, Herman Tilke and all these guys should take a good hard look at themselves and say, well, how can we assist in improving the show?
I agree. There's no real penalty because the runoff areas now at most circuits are so vast and wide. You might lose a tenth here or a couple of tenths there if you come off. Off camera, Pep and I were discussing this very topic, and Pep came up with, I thought, was a good idea, and you engineers out there can tell us whether it's a crap idea, but Pep came up with a very good idea. Have a small runoff, then have gravel, and then have another runoff.
And you have your mega runoff that's, you know, goes for ages. Yeah, exactly.
So it would encourage you to drive relatively safely. So there is a penalty if you come off. At the moment, you can come off and then just keep swooping around and rejoin, and off you go. And there's very little penalty for that.
I think there was a couple of circuits last year where at least the BBC commentators, like Brundle, was saying that, you know, you could actually get quicker time if you went off the circuit. You may lose a couple of tenths, or there's certain corners where you could actually gain time. So, you know, have your curb, have the ability for the car to maybe half a car length to go off the circuit, but once you are off the circuit, then you're going to be penalised.
All we have to remember back to, mate, is Nico Hulkenberg. When Mark Webber was following him last year, he went off the circuit 4 times, cut the chicane 4 times, can't remember the circuit it was at. And, you know, kept going. That was deemed to be fine. I just think it's ridiculous. But anyway, we'll hopefully Formula One circuit design in the future will take all of our ideas into consideration and start penalising people for going off the circuit.
Now guys, let us know what you think about this circuit debacle that's going on and Bernie's comments. And I mentioned Jackie Stewart a minute ago, and we just want to shout out to Jackie and say wish him a speedy recovery. He had a little health scare last week on a plane ride, I think it was back to the UK. So, you know, hope you get better, Jackie.
Yeah, Pep and I had the privilege of seeing Sir Jackie Stewart in Sydney a couple of years ago, launching his book, and he's a wonderful character.
Yeah,
he's led a very interesting life. Both on circuit and off, and we wish Jackie all the very best.
Alright mate, well we've had lots of testing going on, and we've got Mercedes coming out just in the last day or so saying they're 1 second off the pace, which didn't surprise me at all. And I'm just having deja vu to really 12 months ago where they were, you know, pretty much playing catch up then as well. So a lot of work to be done. Nick Fry's saying, you know, don't panic yet. But mate, there's a lot of work to be done with that team.
There certainly is. Yeah. I agree with you, and you know, let's all be honest. The cars that we're seeing in testing at the moment are going to look very nothing much like what they do when they line up on the grid in Melbourne, and you know, we accept that and concede that. But I tell you what, this aero package that Mercedes are going to be bringing to Albert Park better be on the money, because the second, as we all know in Formula One, is a lifetime to make up. Very difficult to get any strong results out of testing. However, we would all concede that the usual protagonists in Ferrari and Red Bull are looking very strong. McLaren, I have a question mark over.
Yeah,
Mercedes definitely.
Yeah. Toro Rosso's a bullet apparently.
Yeah.
So they're telling us.
Which is terrific.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Toro Rosso and Force India for that matter really step up again this year and go to the next level. I'd also like to see Sauber move up this year. I've been very disappointed with Sauber over the last couple of years, and they're one of my pet teams, I guess, because they punch above their weight.
Yeah.
And I'd really like to see Sauber move up this year, but some concern around the McLaren and the Mercedes GP so far.
Yeah, exactly, and we've got Catalonia coming up, 5 more days of testing, so they've got 5 days to shake this stuff out on circuit. Obviously they've got a few weeks to get it sorted out in the factories and in the wind tunnels, but with limited testing, the next 5 days in testing is going to be very critical for these guys, and we'll see true pace. I guess first qualifying session at Albert Park, mate.
Certainly will, no doubt about it.
All right, mate. Ferrari changed the name of their car. It's now called yes, it's now called the 150 Italia. I thought that the name change, the original name was a little bit strange. So
F-150.
So
Ford weren't happy.
Exactly. So we've got a name change for them. What else? The HRT car released its new livery. Did you have a look at that one?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Oh, I did.
It said your name here, and I was thinking, is that for sponsorship or drivers?
No,
I didn't
Pep
get
and
that.
Max.
Yeah,
that's what it meant.
Are we in negotiations, Max?
Yes, I put down a lazy $10.
Yeah,
and
I can chuck in 5.
Great, $15. Yeah. Pep and Max F1.
That's Aussie dollars, by the way. But
yeah, so it's worth about 9 cents. But look, I like the livery of it. It was a shit boring car last year as far as livery is concerned, and we all know it's a shit car.
It is better.
But I think it looks great because they deliberately hired an American guy, a design guru, and he's done his job, and I think it looks like an exciting car. Let's hope it actually does something this year, but a good looking car all round, I thought.
Absolutely. Mate, Robert Kubica's on the mend. That's great news. Watched the video this week of all the drivers giving the shout out to Robert.
It's wonderful.
It's good. And
if you haven't seen it, guys, look at Heikki. Watch Heikki Kovalainen's comments. He's quite funny.
I like the way you're saying about doing it in Finland, so you can lean on the sand wall, ice walls, snow walls. Yeah, it's hilarious.
That was funny, and I thought it was lovely of the guys to give a shout out to Robert. And as we know, a lot of them have gone and seen him in person, which I think is also wonderful.
Yeah.
And let's hope that he comes back sooner rather than later. There's speculation could be 6 months, 8 months, a year. Might not race this year. But in saying that, with every tragedy brings opportunity, and I thought it was wonderful that, and not surprising really, that Renault have chosen to put Nick Heidfeld in that car, and I'm a Heidfeld fan and always have been, and I think it's wonderful that Nick's going to lead the challenge in the Lotus Renault this year.
It's a logical choice, and we know that this news is a couple of weeks old now, but when Max and I were talking about at the time, we both said straight up Nick Heidfeld. I mean, there was no real debate. We didn't have to discuss it too much. For us, Nick Heidfeld was the logical choice. And Nick made it clear that he was approached by Renault, unlike some other drivers who approached Renault, and he's the right person for that seat. They need someone who can lead the team, and Nick Heidfeld can do that. So I was really pleased for Nick Heidfeld, mate.
Yeah, likewise, and very pleased for his fans. Personally, I don't think Nick should have been out of Formula One anyway. A lot of you might say, well, hang on a moment, he hasn't won anything and he's been in Formula One for many years and all that sort of thing. Yeah, true, but Nick's never really driven for a top team, and Renault, as I'm sure you would all agree, last year were on the up and up. And I hope they continue and take that momentum for last year into this year. And when you've got an inexperienced driver as your counterpart, I think it's wonderful that they've chosen someone with a lot of Formula One experience who is, irrespective of what you think of him, a quick driver.
Yeah.